So that idea of the sacred. So, I mean, we might ask, what are the preconditions for being able to live peacefully with other people? Mm-hmm. And it seems to me that, well, if we're all law-abiding, for example, mm-hmm. then we all embody the body of the law. And so what that means is that we're imitating something. Mm-hmm. We're all imitating the same thing. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes us the same. And that's why I commented earlier in our conversation that maybe what unites people isn't so much belief as the pursuit of something like a shared ideal.
Yeah,
and so,
I'm a little, yeah.
Well, okay, well, let me just develop that a little bit. Because you talked about what was sacred. Mm-hmm. And it seems to me that there's an association between what's sacred and what inspires awe. Does that seem reasonable?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely, yes.
Okay, do you think it's reasonable to presume that the instinct for awe is the same as the instinct for imitation, for mimicry?
I don't think they're the same, no. I don't think they're the same at all.
Okay, let's go into that a little bit. So I'll tell you why I think they're the same, and you tell me why you think they're not, if that's okay. Well,
please, that'd be
fun. Well, let me give you an example. People can be possessed by a spirit at a football game. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the teams are cooperating and competing in the way that you described. So there's a tribal element, but overall they're immersed in cooperation because they're all playing soccer. Mm-hmm. And then they're competing to hit a target fundamentally, which is the goal of most sports events, is to hit a target. Okay, so the teams organize themselves into hierarchies of talent, etc. Essentially, there's a star. Perhaps the star makes a phenomenal athletic gesture and hits the target. And the entire stadium stands up and spontaneously, right? Mm-hmm. And because they're observing something that inspires awe. And that awe-inspiring act is to hit the target. And they're all in that stadium celebrating the act of hitting the target. Now, I started to figure this out when I looked into the root of the word sin, because it's hamartia. It means to miss the target.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Yeah, wow is right. Wow is right. And so the opposite of that is to hit the target.
Okay.
Okay, so you see in a stadium with that spontaneous manifestation of awe, the possession of the entire stadium often, and it's almost entirely unconscious because they get up on their feet before they think. And it's an act of worship, essentially, for that prowess shown, for that demonstration of how to hit the mark. And that's part of the imitative spirit, I think. It's part of imitating what's competent and heroic.
Okay, so I disagree with that analysis because I'm a Durkheimian. I just, what would Emil Durkheim say about that? Is it that people are so amazed at the skill with which that guy kicked a ball into a net? I don't think so. Sports events of the kind you describe, that never happens with soccer in the United States. For us, it's more football and sometimes basketball. Mm-hmm. But of the kind you described, it's the pleasure, and anybody listening to this can probably think of times when they either sung in a choir or played in a band or played on a sports team, and you have that feeling of really becoming one. That is a I would say, a quasi-mystical or mystical experience. It's a sort of a loss of self emerging into something larger.
Yes.
That's my argument about this higher and lower level, the level of the sacred and the level of the profane. And Durkheim describes those are Durkheimian terms. He uses those terms. We can briefly enter the realm of the sacred. And if you're going to go see a football game, would you rather have an excellent view of the game alone in a room with an excellent screen, or maybe even just an excellent window? Or would you rather be part of the whole crowd that does the wave? I mean, think about the wave.
No, I agree with you.
People spontaneously figured out how they could become a superorganism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, no, I'm not disagreeing at all. Yeah. And I do think there's a collective element of that worship that's exactly in keeping with what you're describing. And it does unite people. Yes. In the imitation of a spirit in exactly the same way that they're united in a concert or when they're playing in a band. I think those are all manifestations of the same thing. And so I'm not saying that it's only individual by any stretch of the imagination, because there'd be nothing that would unite. See, in the stadium, they're united around that.
Right.
Right?
Okay. So let's focus on imitation here. I guess the reason I disagreed with you is that imitation is such an important human ability for learning. The fact that we, and here I draw from Joe Henrich and others, their approach to cultural evolution, Joe's book, Why Humans Cooperate, and The Weirdest People in the World. And for humans, the nature of the game is not who has the biggest, strongest, or the biggest teeth. It's who learns the most, who learns the best. And we have all this optimization for learning fast. And imitation is a big part of that. So we do imitation, but we do selective imitation, and we figure out who should I imitate. So that would be a sort of a lower level, ubiquitous, crucial human ability that we have, has nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with awe. But then I think we can bring our accounts together by saying, now then we also have this thing about we're able to come together in larger groups to pursue common interests, especially in competition. And as we do that, we use our imitation abilities. We draw on our imitation abilities. And so religious worship, actually it's always puzzling me. In Judaism, you daven, you bow, but it's not in sync. So that one is, I think, a little different. Often you sing, you sway in harmony. You do what everyone else does. And so
that's to atone.
The davening is to it.
At one atonement.
Oh, at one mint.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.